Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this evening's Ask Me Anything webinar. Slight problem with the technicality, the technical side of things, and all my websites just decided to go offline about 15 minutes ago, which has happened before, but it's very infrequent, and it's not even my fault. It's my providers. I just phoned them up. They said, yes, the server's got a problem. We've had to take it offline. Good evening, everybody. Anyway, sorry, let me cut myself out there. Right, so what I'm going to do, I am going to wait for the viewers to catch up, because at the moment I just literally sent you an email. So if you just had that email and you're just on your way over here, then I want to give you a little bit of a chance to ask your questions. Because the whole point of tonight is for you to have an opportunity to ask me whatever you want to ask me, whether it's about running, or general training, or fitness, or weight loss, or nutrition, or mindset, or even personal development things. I want to give you the opportunity to literally ask me anything. And I'm going to be here for as long as you need me to be here, so at least an hour or so. I have had a few questions that have come in via email and during the day, and if it takes a while for you to kind of come on and type your own questions in, then I'll just go back, I'll go to them and I'll answer those questions as well. But when you're watching this, if you have your own question, type your question down below in the comments, on the YouTube comments box, okay? So you're just leaving a comment, but ask it as a question, because that way I'll just scroll through them in a moment once I finish a bit of a preamble, and I shall go through them. So in fact, what I'm going to do is come out of here. I'm going to get the page up and pause myself, otherwise there's going to be a bit of feedback there. And yeah, so ask any questions you have. I'm going to go to a couple of questions now. This is completely unrehearsed, obviously, because I don't know what kind of questions you're going to be asking me. But I do want to just remind you to try and keep the questions as specific as possible, because the more specific you make the questions, the better the answers will be. And that isn't just for this webinar. That's for everything. Any question, anytime you have to ask somebody a question, ask them and be as specific as you can, because the more specific you can, the better your answer is likely to be. So, okay, I'm going to go to one question here. The first one I've got, which is via email, which is from Natalie. And Natalie says she can't tune in because she's away, she's working. But she has got a question. So she is cabin crew and she commutes from Glasgow to London for work, presumably on a plane. Are there any tips you could give me for eating healthy on flights, hotels, and commuting? So this is a great question, Natalie, and you're probably not the only one who's going to benefit from the answer here. It's not just when you've got to get on an aeroplane. It's any time you're going to be away from your normal surroundings. Like if you're at home, healthy eating is pretty easy to do. You just have to make sure that you've got the food in, you're prepared, you've got the meals you're going to eat, you've got healthy snacks in the cupboard. When you're on the road, it's not quite so easy. You have to be more prepared. And that's the answer to a lot of people's problems. It's being more prepared. So actually, if you had some, say, packs of nuts, and you had some fresh fruit, and you had some maybe some cold chopped meat that you could cook up the night before. Chicken breast is brilliant for this. Cook up an extra chicken breast, chop it up. That's a fantastic snack or something to go with your lunch. If you can be prepared enough that it's actually relatively easy to find things that you can eat on the run. The problem is if you're not prepared and you find yourself on an aeroplane, for example, or in a hotel, or in you're in a train station, there's nothing healthy to eat. Then you end up, you're hungry, you think I've got to have something, and you end up picking at the best of a bad bunch. And it's well, you're never going to make the best possible decisions because you're limited with what your selection is. And generally speaking, because you're hungry at that point, maybe a little bit frustrated as well, you tend to go for the least best option as well. That's not just you, Natalie, that's pretty much anybody, I would imagine. So be prepared, get things prepared in advance, take them with you, and you'll get into a bit of a routine. Even if you're eating the same sort of things every day, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to do a bit of a refresh on here. Remember, ask your questions by typing them in the box below, and then I shall go through them. I have got a couple of other questions on email with my phone. This is brilliant now. Look, my phone's just decided it's going to run out of battery, so I'm onto email here on the computer. And I did have another one earlier on this afternoon as well. Give me 1 second, I shall find it. Where is it? Okay. Mandy. Oh, okay. So this is from Mandy. This is the first time I've read through this question. She only sent it about an hour ago when I was out teaching bootcamp. But her question is from Mandy Morris. Hi, George. Can't attend the webinar tonight, but I do have a question. Supposed to be doing, well, I'm doing the Nottingham Half Marathon in just over 4 weeks. Having had a knee injury, very behind in my training. I'm well aware I'm going to be walking some of the event, but now accepting that. Okay. Last night I ran 3 miles non-stop. Question is, what is the best way to train over the next few weeks to get the best out of the day? Currently doing gym circuit classes 3 times a week, plus 30 minutes, plus horse riding 4 times a week, times 45 minutes. Willing to run as much as possible. Okay, right. Well, here's the thing. Here's the bigger issue here. When you have an end date in mind for a goal, and there's nothing you can do about shifting that end date, then you only have a finite amount of time with which to train. Now, if you miss a big chunk of that because you're injured or you otherwise are unable to train or you just don't train, you miss a big chunk of that, then you have to do one really, really important thing, and that's to modify your expectations of the day. And it sounds like, Mandy, you've already done that, which is brilliant, because you've already said, prepare to walk, just want to get around it. And by the sounds of it, what you're asking is, how can I make the most out of the day? How can I get the most value from the day and enjoy it as much as possible? What training can I do? Well, it depends how well recovered, in this particular case, how well recovered your knee is. But if you're able to run again, and it sounds like you are, you're doing 3 miles non-stop, which is fine. If you're able to run again, then I would do 3 runs a week, and the rest of the time I wouldn't overstress your body. So doing lots of horse riding, doing lots of gym circuit classes, that's fine for a general maintenance program. But if you want to get the most out of the day, then I would run. I would do a little bit of body conditioning. The gym circuits maybe once or twice a week would help with that, and maybe horse riding once or twice. If you can't do anything about the horse riding because you have to ride your horse 4 times a week, then okay, you have to do that. But just be aware that anything you do that isn't running, like horse riding or even swimming and so on, if you're doing more exercise than you need to be doing and not enough running, then that's going to have a detrimental effect. Now, it's not just the day you have to consider. You have to consider how can you get the most out of the next 4 weeks as well. And actually, you want to be doing the things that you enjoy doing, which is possibly why you're doing your horse riding anyway, rather than purely just to keep fit. So the training I would do, I would just work on building up the time you spend on your feet. So try to get up to a point where you're running, stroke walking for 2 hours between now and then. Don't worry about, maybe take a week off before the race itself, where you taper down, but the next 3 weeks, just build it up. So you're doing 2 hours rather, walking and jogging. So take all the pressure off, doesn't matter how far you go, just walk, jog up to 2 hours. And then on the day, you want to make sure you're properly recovered and you're going to get the best possible out of it. So forget about times. That's not important. It doesn't sound like that's important to you right now. This is just about getting from start to finish and enjoying it. So that would be my advice on that one. Okay, now I did have a couple of other questions. I'll root around, see if I can find them. Don't worry about maybe take a week. I just realised that it says comments are disabled for this video. Oh, no, they're not. Here we go. I've got a question coming from Fiona. I want to run a road marathon in 4 hours in the next 12 to 18 months. Done one marathon just under 4:15, another one in October, planning for 4:30. Okay, is it a realistic goal, and how can I do it from where I am now? From Fiona in Reading. Well, Fiona, I think you're on the iMarathon program, so you're guaranteed to get whatever results you want. If you're not, then you should be. So the bigger question here is how realistic is it to get down from 4:15 down to 4 hours? And the back knowledge I would need to answer that really with complete conviction would be to know exactly how you trained for the previous marathon and how you plan to train for the next marathon. Because if you're, I know this isn't the case because I know you from the Intelligent Running Group, but if you if somebody, say, didn't do any training at all for a marathon and ran 4 hours 15, and then they're prepared to train 3 times a week and do all the other things and change their diet and lose some weight and just really focus on preparing for the marathon, then you can expect some pretty radical results. But if you did most of those things in the lead up to your 4:15 marathon, then the amount you knock off will be smaller. What I would recommend is, if you're looking at this as a 12 to 18 month goal, I would recommend taking some time out and spending some time on 10Ks where you get faster and then go back and do your marathons, because that way you're going to add in the speed, and then your endurance from previous marathons and other long training that you do in the lead up to it is going to have a positive impact. It's going to help you. So that would be my advice for that one, Fiona. I think it's something you're doing in October, or maybe it's not, maybe it's a different one. So do your marathon in October, continue with the training. You don't want to monkey around too much with that right now. But yeah, absolutely, it's realistic to knock a few minutes off for October, but then you want to go back and you want to get some faster running. Maybe even drop down to a half marathon training program, spend some time on a half, spend some time on 10Ks, and then build it back up again. So you have that sharpness with your training. Okay, next question. Anything else? Marathons and other long training that you do. Mute myself every time I refresh the screen there. Okay, anything else? I'm going to see if I can dig out this other question, because there was another one that came through earlier. Where are we? Oh, here we go. Yes, okay. Cuco. Hi, George. Okay, this is another intelligent runner. So with a daughter at a Gaelic football match. So good enough reason to not make it this evening, I suppose. So this is about threshold running. So all the questions so far have been about threshold running. Feel free to ask questions that aren't about running. It just so happens that I know a bit about running, and I've done some running coaching, and I've got a lot of people on my list and my email list who are runners. But ask about anything at all. If I can answer it, then I will. If I can't, then I will say. I'm not going to try and make something up. But here's a great question about threshold running. And actually, the way you frame this, Akuko, is brilliant as well. You said you have explained this before so many times, but if I was running too slow a pace than it should be, or lower intensity, i.e. 8.5 out of 10, would I not be getting any benefit from it? So two things. First of all, I have explained about threshold running before. I've explained about long runs. I've explained about nutrition for weight loss. I've explained about healthy fats. I've explained about a positive mindset. I've explained about all sorts of things. But if you don't understand it from the explanation that I've given, and you have the opportunity to ask me to explain it in a different way, then take that opportunity. Because I'll explain it on this level here, but actually where you are and what the tiny bit of information that's stopping you from getting past might be here somewhere. And that's not just for me, that's for any aspect of anything. I'm always doing this. I'll generally get a concept. I'll kind of understand something. I understand the abstractness of it. But when it comes down to the detail, and that's important when you're trying to apply something, if I don't absolutely 100% fully comprehend every tiny little scrap of detail when it's relevant, then I can't move beyond that. So you need to figure out what it is and ask the question. The difficulty is often we don't ask those questions and we just think, oh, I can't do this, I don't understand. Or you just don't take any action and don't ever progress towards it, let alone beyond it. So this is a really smart question. I've spoken about threshold running many times before. There's still a point that isn't quite clear. So the question's been asked again. Let me answer it. In fact, let me kind of blow the question up a little bit. It's looking like the question's asking me if you don't quite get the intensity right with threshold and you're not going fast enough, threshold running should be 8 or 8.5 out of 10 on an intensity scale. So you should be comfortably uncomfortable. So what Akuko's asking is if you're like a 7.5 or just below an 8, you're not quite there, are you not going to get any benefits at all? Is it a waste of time? Well, the answer is no, it's not a waste of time, but you could get more benefits. So like any training session, it's never going to be a waste of time. You're always going to get something from it. But if you're spending an hour doing something, then let's get the best possible results you can from that hour. It might mean you work a little harder. In some cases, it might mean you work a little easier. Or you might just do things slightly differently, so you're not working harder at all. But if it means if changing something about what you're doing means you get a better result for no additional time input, then that's a good thing, in my opinion anyway. So you can spend the same amount of time and get better results. That's the whole idea of intelligent running or intelligent training. You train smart rather than just training hard all the time. It's not to say that it's not hard. So with threshold running, try and get the intensity up to 8 or 8.5 out of 10. And you've got to tune into your body. You've got to keep on assessing and reassessing and reevaluating where you are with that intensity. if you feel like you check in one time and you feel like you're gasping for breath, you can barely keep it going, then slow down. Inevitably, that's going to have to happen anyway. So slow down before you're forced to slow down physiologically. If you find though it's quite easy and you're not working hard enough, and you know you're not working hard enough, then speed up. But you only know that if you keep on checking in with your body. It's one of the reasons I don't listen to music when I run, because I like to be able to do that, to take that inventory of my body and see where I am and feel where I am and listen out for those sounds my body's making and how my feet are landing on the ground that tell me, give me feedback about how I'm performing and what intensity I'm at. And if I'm not at the right intensity, I can speed up or I can slow down. Okay, and you said there, you went on to say, I tried to keep my intensity but found I was running too slow during the threshold sessions, therefore would not be able to run faster. Yeah, so basically, as I said there, run faster. 8.5 out of 10 is where you shoot for. It should be comfortably uncomfortable for a threshold. The second question was about fueling during a marathon. I'd be running more than 4 to 4.5 hours. You had 33 energy gels every hour. Last year's Dublin City Marathon wasn't feeling good at the second half. Planning to bring some baby fruit puree pouches, okay, in addition to 33 shake gels, as I don't want to use energy gels. Would that be enough fuel for a marathon? Marathon fueling is a bit of a pseudo-science, really. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. You do have to experiment and find out what works best for you. You mentioned there about the pouches of baby food, which I started using when I was training for Endure 24. And what I did find was, even though they were perfectly handy and usable, because you could just take the top off, you could squeeze it down your neck. I wouldn't recommend the beef casserole at 6:30 in the morning, which I tried and was interesting. But you just don't get enough. You don't get enough energy from it. There's just not enough calories to really make a difference. The benefits of energy gels, if there were any, is that you get pretty condensed calories in a small packet. 33 shake gels, some people get on really well with them, some people don't. You just have to experiment with them. So I'm not going to say don't take the fruit pouches. Fructose, which you'll get a lot of in fruit pouches, can only be broken down and processed by the liver. So you'll get some fructose, some glucose, mainly fructose. So you're not going to get it straight to the working muscles. It has to be broken down in the liver first, and then you can use it. So that's a consideration as well. You're almost better off trying. It's difficult to make your own energy shake up, but you could make some sort of a drink up, which has some sort of sugar, some sort of salt in there as well, to give you some electrolytes, potassium salts or sodium salts. And then you could have that at some point if you could have someone on the course who's going to give it to you. But I have done many marathons just off 33 shake gels. I've done 20+ mile runs with nothing at all in the tank. So sometimes you've got to play around with it if you go and find out what's going to work best for you. All right, let me go back to YouTube and see if I can notice any other questions. You could make some sort of George. There we go. What else have we got? Anything else on here? Keep saying comments are disabled for this video. Well, I didn't disable them. Oh, here we go. Another question coming in. Another question. Oh, we've got a few questions. Good. Okay, right. I'm going to go to the oldest questions first. Tony Pound. Hi, George. Any tips for a procrastinating perfectionist when the need to get things done right prevents action from being taken and is used as an excuse to put things off as it's never quite right? What a great question, and what a great pivot away from running related question to something that's a bit more certainly something that I'm really into at the moment, which is personal development, or have been for a long time, but I'm putting together various services and courses on this subject. So Tony, this is a great question. So if you are a procrastinating perfectionist, first of all, you want to remove that label. Okay, you're not a procrastinating perfectionist. There will be things that you do, and you can probably name a few of them now if you really think about it, that you don't procrastinate about and you don't do perfectly. There are plenty of things you don't do perfectly. So use that, first of all, to break that, remove the label. You're not a procrastinating perfectionist, but there will be some things that you do feel that you have to do perfect if you're going to do them at all. And the problem with that attitude with certain things is that it prevents things from happening. So it's you literally stop things from happening, or you don't take any action because it's not exactly perfect. So the first step is to remove that label from yourself. Don't call yourself that again, but we'll move on from that. And then to break down what it is you need to do or what you want to do into the tiniest possible steps. So if you have something that you want to do, it's a big vision and you're thinking, okay, the whole thing has to be perfect. But what is the one step you could do today that you could do perfectly? What could you do? Even if it involves a bit of research, what could you do? And just write down as many of the tiny little steps as possible, and then figure out which of those you know how to do absolutely perfectly right now. And then that will move you forwards. And what you find happens eventually is you get a little bit of momentum going, and you start getting a bit of, you're getting a bit of results, you're getting some results, and then it starts snowballing and momentum starts to build. And then all of a sudden you realize that done is better than perfect. And that's nearly always the case. Done is better than perfect, unless you're a heart surgeon or a brain surgeon, in which case you've got to be pretty perfect as well. So there we go, Tony. Hope that's helped in some way. Okay, GDK Mouse. I want to run a 100-mile ultramarathon. Great goal to have. There are very few training plans out on the web, but many different types for Catch the 5K, 10K, full half marathon. Why are there so few compared to 100-mile events? Probably, it's a good question, but it's probably because there are so few people in comparison who will ever want to run 100 miles. I did one a couple of months ago, and there just aren't training programs. You either have to go and get a bespoke one created by a running coach, or you have to figure it out, and it's part of the process. I was lucky when I trained for my 100-miler. Well, it was a 24-hour race that I decided I wanted to do 100 miles. And I was lucky that I had a couple of friends of mine who were very, very experienced ultra runners. So the best way to do it is to get into some kind of a community where people will be able to give you advice. And it's not saying you have to do it that way, but it's a starting point. And that's the reason why there aren't that many training programs for those for the big long ultras. And also don't forget, ultras 100 miles could be like Endure 24, like I did, which was reasonably flat, a few hills in there, or it might be the 104-mile Tour de Mont Blanc, which is the equivalent of climbing Everest. So that's going to be a very different training program compared to what I did. So you've got lots of different things to consider as well, which is why there's not one, here's your 100-mile ultra endurance training program. But good question. But go into, if you're on Facebook, then there's a good Facebook group, the ultra running community. So try and find that. And it's packed with really, really helpful people who've done loads of crazy ultras, and a load of first timers as well, people who've never done an ultra, but they're training for their first one. Okay, Rebecca, I tend to get 2 recurring injuries when I run. The arch of my foot arches to the point where I can't put pressure on it when I'm walking. And I also tend to get a swelling on the edge of one of my kneecaps. It feels like a sack of fluid. Okay, the swelling flares up when I've been doing a lot of running. I've read a lot of different people who are possible culprits for such injuries: weak glutes, tight calves. What do you think are the most likely causes, and what can I do to avoid them? Okay, big question. Nice bit of detail there. That's a good question to have, very specific. Unfortunately, my answer is going to be going to see a physio. Although I can tell you what my assessment of reading your 5 lines is, and that sounds like you've got possibly bursitis on the knee, which is the little sac that kind of protects, or it's like a cushion that the ligaments run over. And that can get infected and it can swell up, and that's why you get this kind of squishy feeling. It's not very pleasant and quite painful. On the foot, it sounds like it could be arches to the point where it could be plantar fasciitis, which is where you get a bit of a tendon, you get a bit of an inflammation, not an infection, inflammation in the plantar fascia, which runs underneath the foot and up into the heel cup. So both of those could well be connected. And they could also be connected to a weakness in the glutes. They may also, and to do that, you just do various glute exercises like the clam, where you lie on your side and you open up your feet, open up your knees. So you kind of, that's like that. So your feet together, you open your knees up like that. And that's going to help strengthen up the outside of the butt. But that might not cure your problem, because actually your problem might be coming from an imbalance in your pelvis, a misalignment in your pelvis. It could be one leg slightly longer than the other. It could be an effective one leg slightly longer than the other with this imbalanced pelvis. It could be your spine might be slightly out of alignment. There could be all sorts of reasons that you're never going to be able to do anything about yourself unless you're going to see somebody. So I really would, in this instance, Rebecca, I really would recommend going and spending 40, 50 quid with a decent physio, like so your feet together, you open your knees up like that. And getting it checked out properly, because they'll be able to ask your, sorry, they'll be able to have a look at how you're running, how you're moving, exactly where the pain and the problem is, and give you more information, more better advice from that. Very difficult to kind of injury diagnose from a distance like this. Oh, hang on, a few more comments coming in here. Okay, approve that one there. How do I get back now? Sorry, I'm still trying to do this. Going and spending 40. Be quiet. Oh, actually, I'll mute me. That's better. Okay. Right. I did have another question cut there. Oh, here you go, Steve. Hi, George. I used to be into starchy carbohydrates for pre-fueling before running half and full marathons, pasta and rice. Can I get the same amount of carbs from eating veggies? Should I stop consuming starchy carbs altogether? Well, Steve, you don't have to stop consuming starchy carbs altogether. There's no need to eat quite as much as it sounds like you were eating. If anybody uses the words, I used to be into starchy carbohydrates, that means you're probably eating big plates of the stuff. So you don't have to. You probably wouldn't get as much from a plate of broccoli as you would do from a plate of pasta. You'd have to be eating an awful lot of broccoli to do that. But like I said, you don't have to stop. Your body doesn't need as much carbohydrate, energy from carbohydrates, starchy carbohydrates, as we think it does. Not even to run marathons or half marathons. You really don't. But you can't just go from eating a really, really carbohydrate dense diet and running marathons to switching to fat burning or fats and proteins and lower amounts of plant-based carbohydrates and expect to get the same performance out. It takes a bit of a transition, because what you do is you effectively turn your body into more of a fat burning machine. So your body then becomes better adapted to burning fat for fuel and conserving the muscle glycogen. So you're working at a different level. You're working with slightly different energy systems. In the aerobic system, which we talked about earlier, when you're working aerobically, your body is burning fat for fuel. That's what it is. It doesn't use glycogen, stored carbohydrates. It burns fat for fuel in the presence of oxygen. That's what's called the aerobic, because it's with oxygen. Anaerobic, the lactic system, means it's without oxygen and without aerobic oxygen. So just be careful when you try and make those changes, would be my advice there. Simon, hi George, any good mindset book recommendations? Ideally reasonably light holiday reading. Thanks, Simon. Well, Simon, you're on the mastermind program, so I'm going to be sending out some wonderful mindset books. The thing with mindset is there are so many different aspects to it. So it's not a case of saying, right, well, look, here's one book that's all about mindset. What I would recommend actually would be to read autobiographical works or stories that have been written by people who inspire you. So I'm a big fan of Joe Duffy, as you probably know. So any of his books, TikTok 10 in particular, which talks about his transition from couch potato, overweight, chain smoker to Deca iron distance triathlon winner. So 10 Ironmans back to back. It's an incredible story. It details his training, but it's just so inspiring. And so when you look at that, you really get an insight into what the man's mindset was like. So that would probably be my best recommendation. I'm going to be sending some specific recommendations to you as well. In fact, I'll do that tomorrow for the mastermind group. So you have something to get stuck into and go away with. I do have a couple of others, but they're slightly heavier going, which we're going to be kind of taking apart during the course of the program. Let me do another refresh here. These questions are really good, folks. Really good. Keep them coming. See if we've got any more since I've been away there. Let's have a look. There was one that I just effectively approved. Oh, here we go. Here's Madeline. Madeline Duncan Booth, another masterminder. I'm really trying to work on my posture at the moment. My physio said it comes from me locking out my knees, which in turn throws my pelvis out of my spine. Okay, that's quite common, I think. I'm trying to correct that stance by having softer knees, tucking bottom under. Do you have any specific exercises to aid posture, or maybe a mini workout? Most people's problem with posture are slouching, and the best way of avoiding slouching is the piece of string trick. So you always think about pulling your head up from the crown of the head right in there, pulling up with a piece of string, and that lifts your body into this lovely alignment. That's the easiest way to think about posture. But the problem is, if you've locked your knees out and you have this sway back, which is effectively what you've got there, when you lock your knees, you push your bum forwards. I think that throws the pelvis out. Yes, the pelvis might be kind of shifted, tucked under too much. if that's happened, then you can pull up all you like, you're going to be leaning backwards. So check yourself in the mirror and get a feel for it, because we have these things in our body called proprioceptors, which tell us what position we're in. And sometimes it's difficult to gauge it. You can't always know exactly what position your body's in. You might think you're standing completely straight with perfect posture. You look in the mirror and you realize you're slouching, or you're shifting your hips forwards, or your knees are knocked out. So spend some time just getting sideways onto a mirror and having a look at your posture. Go square onto the mirror and have a look at your posture. Practice standing with good posture for minutes at a time, because you'll find muscles that will start to ache when you're doing that. And those muscles that are aching are the muscles that are fatiguing. And the muscles that are fatiguing early are the ones that are the body's going to compensate for that. And the body's going to try and find other ways of holding you in position without having to use those ones that are fatiguing. So what you need to do in that case is then try to strengthen those muscles. So it's not like there's one exercise or one workout for improving posture. There are certain exercises that you could do. Back extensions is normally a pretty good one. My favorite is just a piece of string trick. But if you can work out which muscles are weak, they're the ones that you can practice or you can train. If you can get into it's again difficult to kind of give you this information from afar like this, but you can isolate those muscles or do exercises that will incorporate them, and that's going to help as well. Okay, and Simon, your question was so good you asked it twice. It's slightly different though. I think you asked it 1 minute apart. Oh no, hang on. No, you did ask it. Any good mindset books, recommendations? Actually, I'm into podcasts as well. There's some good podcasts out at the moment, and also audiobooks. I use Audible, so I listen to audiobooks quite a lot at the moment, and there are some good ones there. In fact, there's one good book I read, which is quite heavy going, but it's probably not a holiday read. I did it on Audible, and was the Marshmallow Test, which is all about willpower. So that's worth having a look at. It's quite heavy going. It's very sort of academic, but there are some practical implications in that as well. I'll be doing a review on that at some point. So if you don't want to wade through that, don't worry, I'll get to it. One more refresh here. Can you keep the questions coming if you have any more? Fire away. Where are we? 13. I think we've got a couple more in there now. Okay. Okay, we've got a question there which is about the Democratic People's of Korea is potato. So I'm just going to get rid of that one. I want to comment. Yeah, there we go. Da, 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 da. Okay, next question. Where are we? Any more down here? Oh, maybe we've come to the end, and maybe there are no more questions. If you have any questions, there's a little bit of a delay on these videos normally. So now is the time to ask them if you have any additional questions, because once we get to the end, we've been going about half an hour. Despite the technical hitches at the start, we're almost at the end there. I think I've just done another refresh. No more questions come in there. There was a question that I saw that was, no, I can't see it. A question that came in and it went to spam, and I checked it wasn't spam, but it doesn't seem to have come over there yet. So apologies if you did ask a question. I might try and reschedule this and do it again in a few weeks' time, because I'm sure that a lot of people wouldn't have got my final email saying come over here. So I'm sure that there were lots of other questions. I did have a couple of the questions on my email, but I couldn't find them either. But pretty good session there. I hope you have had some value out of that. Hopefully you have managed to learn something if you had a question of your own, or indeed if you the questions that other people asked were relevant to you. Hopefully you benefited from those answers as well. So this really was, there's no kind of sales pitch or anything at the end. This was literally just an opportunity for you to ask me anything. I will do one again because I quite enjoy doing these. They're always quite good fun. Little bit of adrenaline going because I don't know what he's going to ask what. And I will send you the link to the next one, and I'll also put the video recording of this up as well. So if anybody did miss it, then they'll be able to get it. Or if you want to go back and have another look at something, then you can do that as well. But otherwise, thanks so much for tuning in tonight, and I will speak to you again very soon. Bye for now.